On the afternoon of February 1st, 2022, at 4 p.m, police in Chelmsford, Essex, received a 999 call concerning a disturbance at a small upstairs flat on Tennyson Road. When officers reached the scene, they found the door closed but unlocked. There were no signs of forced entry. They saw a man inside, but he refused to open the door. The officers knocked several times and told him to open up, but in the end, they had to kick the door in. In the bedroom, they found 19-year-old Ashley Wadsworth. She was unresponsive and covered in blood. A man was sitting on the bed, talking on the phone. He was calm and seemed unbothered. Paramedics arrived and attempted resuscitation, but Ashley's injuries were too much. She was pronounced dead at the scene. The man in the room was 23-year-old Jack Seppel, Ashley's boyfriend, and the person she had moved across the world to live with just months earlier. As officers detained him, he made no attempt to flee and did not resist. What followed would reveal a pattern of coercive control, escalating violence, and sudden brutality. A relationship that had begun online between a teenager in Canada and a man in England had ended in one of the most shocking domestic homicide cases Essex had seen that year. This is the case of Ashley Wadsworth. Ashley Wadsworth grew up in Vernon, British Columbia. Known among family and friends for her warm, caring personality, she was deeply connected to her faith. She converted to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints when she turned 18. Her family described her as fiercely loving and loyal to her family and friends. She had a spontaneous, witty, kind personality and an unforgettable laugh. She was always joking around, and she was accepted into the Thompson Rivers University in Kamloops. Her grandfather recalled that she was a sweetheart. She was very smart, she liked skiing, everything really. She was a great kid, he said. Friends said she was studious, adventurous, and very faith-driven. One church friend said, she always wanted to get out of the small-town life in Vernon. She was kind and energetic. She always jumped in with both feet. When Ashley was just 12, she met 15-year-old Jack Seppel on Facebook. They would chat all the time and become good friends. Jack lived in England, specifically Chelmsford in Essex. Ashley's family knew about Jack, and sometimes would say hi to him when they were video chatting. They said he often sent Ashley gifts, and she thought he was nice and kind. To Ashley, the relationship felt important. No other boy compared to Jack. He was older and appeared to take interest in her life, her interests and her plans. He complimented her. He was available to talk almost any time. Ashley grew emotionally attached, and after a few years, she began referring to him as her boyfriend, and they would say I love you to each other. When she was 16, Ashley asked her parents if she could go to England, but they refused. She was too young to go abroad by herself. But by mid-2021, when Ashley was a legal adult, she decided to go to England. It wasn't just about Jack, though. Vernon is a small place. It's far from anywhere, and Ashley wanted more. She wanted to experience living in a busier, bigger city. And Chelmsford was close enough to London that Ashley would get to live a life she dreamed of. She had never lived outside of Canada before, but the idea of visiting Jack and experiencing the country she'd always wanted to see became her goal. In late 2021, she made her decision. She was going. She flew WestJet from Calgary to London Gatwick. When she arrived at the airport, she met Jack in person for the very first time. Ashley was 19 when she moved to England, entering on a 6-month tourist visa. She planned to stay with Jack in his Chelmsford flat. Her family supported the trip, but were naturally cautious. Her dad didn't want her to go initially, but Ashley told him she was going with or without his support, so he gave in and told her to have fun. Ashley reassured them everything would be fine. She was excited, optimistic, and determined to make the most of a new adventure. Upon arrival, Ashley posted smiling photos online. She visited London landmarks, the Tower of London, Big Ben, Buckingham Palace. She appeared genuinely happy. Her posts showed she was spending time with Jack, sightseeing, and settling into her new surroundings. She was amazed with London and was in awe of its old buildings. To those watching from home, it seemed like Ashley's dream was coming true. They figured she was happy. But as is usually the case, social media did not reflect the full reality. Within weeks of arriving in England, subtle changes became noticeable to Ashley's friends back in Canada. Ashley, who normally responded quickly to messages, sometimes went silent for long periods. Friends struggled to reach her regularly. When she did reply, she seemed different, tense, anxious, and vague about how things were going. Comments she made hinted at conflict in the flat. Jack, according to those who later reviewed the case, had a history of controlling behavior in previous relationships. His insecurities, jealousy, and temper surfaced in his relationship with Ashley. He wanted access to her social media accounts, so she gave him her passwords. In one message to her friend, Ashley said, "Careful what you say, he's watching." Although police would later piece together the full timeline, the general pattern became clear. Jack exerted increasing control over Ashley's movements, messages, and interactions with others. He grew angry quickly. Arguments became frequent. In one voicemail he left on Ashley's phone, Jack sounds demonic.
It's driving me! My lip! It's driving me crazy! I'm so hell! I'm gonna kill it. I'm gonna murder her.
Ashley, being non-confrontational by nature, often tried to de-escalate. She avoided arguments, but the more she tried to keep the peace, the more control Jack exerted. By late December and early January, the relationship had deteriorated significantly, and Jack started getting violent. He threw things against the wall and eventually started beating Ashley. Around mid-January 2022, Ashley's friends grew extremely concerned about the relationship, and they asked Ashley to come back to Canada. But she wanted to stay and work things out with Jack. His manipulation was clearly working. But her desire to stay quickly vanished when yet again Jack beat her and left her with massive bruises. Ashley's family begged her to come home, and this time she agreed. It was time to go. The flight would have been booked for later that same day, but first Ashley needed a COVID test so that she could fly. So her family booked her a flight home for February 3rd, 3 days later. When Ashley told Jack she was leaving, he agreed to take her to get her COVID test, so she thought all was fine. But as we know, when a woman tells a man she's leaving him, that's one of the most dangerous times in a relationship, especially when he has already proven that he's violent. At about 8 a.m. on February 1st, Ashley screamed and then banged on the neighbor's door. A woman named Helen answered and let Ashley inside. She told Helen that Jack had smashed her phone when he saw her looking at a picture of a naked woman. Ashley told Helen how he then began hitting her and threw their kitten against the wall. Horrified, Helen suggested they call the police, but Ashley didn't want her to. She didn't want the police involved. She told Helen she was fine and that she could just talk it out with Jack and everything would be okay. To make sure she was okay, Helen went next door to speak to Jack, and she found him to be quite calm. Jack apologized to Ashley in front of Helen, and thinking everything would then be okay, that it wouldn't escalate any further, Helen left and went to an appointment. But things got even worse. Around noon, Ashley texted some friends from the Mormon church in Chelmsford, and she also texted her sister back home. She told them that there was an emergency and she needed help. Unfortunately, it was the middle of the night in BC, and Haley, Ashley's sister, was asleep. When Haley awoke in the morning, she saw the distressed text from Ashley and immediately called her back, but got no answer. She rang and then tried Jack's phone. Again, the phone rang, but no one answered. Haley knew something was terribly wrong at this point. Meanwhile, Ashley's friends from church were so concerned that they went to the flat to see Ashley in person. They repeatedly knocked on the door, but when no one answered, they called the police.
Essex Police, what's your emergency?
Hi, one of our friends has been texting us that she's been in a domestic, that like they've had some abuse in her home.
Okay, is this happening now, yeah?
Yeah.
What's your friend's name?
Ashley Wadsworth.
Her age?
She's 19. Yeah, she's
19 years of age.
She's Canadian.
Do you know Ashley's boyfriend's name?
Jack.
Have you heard things in the past about Ashley and Jack? Is this like an ongoing, is it an abusive relationship in general?
It seems like it's always been kind of a dodgy relationship.
We're on our way, by the way.
Police arrived quickly.
Hello, sir, please, go open the door. Otherwise, I'm going to have to put it in.
Open the door. I know you're in there, I've just seen you.
Once they kicked the door in, they found Ashley unresponsive and lying in the couple's bed. There was also a large amount of blood. Jack was on the phone, FaceTiming his sister. They asked Jack what happened, and he said he was sorry, he went psychotic. Paramedics attempted CPR and tried to revive her, but Ashley's injuries were fatal. She was declared dead at the scene. Jack was detained immediately and taken to the police station, but when questioned, he answered every question with no comment.
When you told officers you were sorry, I would suggest that was admission to you killing Ashley. Did you kill Ashley?
No comment.
Officers, doctors, and forensic investigators described the scene as disturbing. The autopsy confirmed Ashley died from multiple stab wounds. There were defensive injuries to her hands and arms, so she tried to fight back. The brutality of the injuries indicated rage consistent with domestic homicides involving domestic abuse. Police obtained Jack's phone and electronic devices. Messages recovered showed a clear escalation of jealousy and possessiveness. There were arguments about Ashley's online activity, communication with friends, and intentions to leave. Investigators discovered in the days leading up to the killing, Jack had become increasingly paranoid and controlling. He accused Ashley of being unfaithful, despite no evidence. Digital forensics strengthened the case that the killing was motivated by his fear of abandonment. And unknowingly to Ashley's family and friends, Jack had a history of offences for online harassment, assault, and breaching restraining orders dating all the way back to 2014. Before murdering Ashley, he had exhibited similar abusive behaviour towards a previous partner. The allegations included false imprisonment, assault, and coercive and controlling behaviour. But when his previous partner did not attend trial, the prosecution offered no other evidence, so Jack was only handed a restraining order. When Ashley's father learned of Jack's history, he said, "I feel like I sent her to the wolves." Jack Seppel was charged with murder. During interviews, he did not dispute causing Ashley's injuries. He offered limited explanations. He did not claim self-defense. He did not blame Ashley. In fact, he barely said a word. With the evidence overwhelming, Seppel's legal team entered a guilty plea. The case was heard at Chelmsford Crown Court. The prosecution outlined the timeline, Ashley's attempt to leave, and the evidence of coercive control. They emphasized that Ashley's death was preventable and stemmed from classic domestic abuse patterns: isolation, control, escalation, and fatal violence when the victim attempts to leave. The judge described the murder as brutal and merciless, noting that Ashley had travelled thousands of miles in pursuit of a life she hoped to build, only to be met with fatal violence. Jack Seppel was sentenced to life imprisonment with a minimum term of 23 years and 6 months. In the impact statements read in court, Ashley's family spoke with raw grief. Her mother, Christy, said, "This is a nightmare that, thanks to you, Jack, we will never wake up from." On January 31st, 2023, a candlelight vigil was held in Vernon, BC, by the Wadsworth family and local community. In their statement, the family urged those experiencing partner violence to speak out. They said, "Even if they say it's fine and okay now, if something doesn't feel right, it's probably because it's not right." Ashley's mother and sister regularly watch old TikToks and videos of Ashley goofing around and having fun. Her mum said, "We laugh a lot and we cry a lot, but it's not easy because those are memories. We will cherish them, but that is all we have."